Hey, how's it going everyone? Coach Aero here, and in this workout we will be covering our first mechanic of the fall, double taps. A double tap is defined as hitting the ball while it is in the air against the opponent's backboard, and following the ball in the air to then follow it up and hit the ball again once it bounces off the backboard. This is a high-level mechanic and requires a certain amount of precision, so doing this to the point where you can consistently pull it off takes a very large amount of practice. But it pays off in the end because the double tap is one of the most threatening solo plays that you can attempt and will especially punish teams that have poor backboard defense. We will break the double tap down into 3 separate parts: the first touch in the air to hit the ball off the backboard, and finally the first touch in which you are trying to read and hit the ball again following its bounce off the backboard. For today's warm-up, we will be doing 5 minutes of free play to get our mechanics warm. Remember that since double taps are such a mechanical concept, we want to ensure that we are warmed up and ready to go for when we jump into our drills. The first step we will be practicing is the first step of a double tap, the initial hit to get the ball airborne. For this lesson, we will be in a singular training pack, and you will see that for all the shots, the ball starts rolling up the wall. Ideally, we want our first touch to go high in the air at an upwards angle to give us time to fly back up to it and attempt our double tap. But we don't want to hit the ball too hard to the point where it hits the ceiling. For this exercise, practice hitting the closest bottom corner of the ball on the wall to pop the ball off the wall and up into the air. A graphic should be popping up on screen now, which further illustrates the sweet spot that you want to try to hit and get as good of a first touch as possible. Do this exercise until you can consistently get that pop-up that we are looking for. The next step to the double tap is the first touch in the air, so this would be following our pop-up off the wall. One rule to remember when going for this first aerial touch is to feather your boost to ensure you're not losing control in the air, and that just means that you're going to tap your boost button instead of holding it. For this touch, we want to either hit the ball in a somewhat straight trajectory at backboard or slightly at an upwards incline, but never at a downwards angle, as that will make it more difficult for us to read and easier for the defense to intercept. For this drill, it will require you to perfectly execute drill 1 to get that pop-up for our attempt. So if you find yourself struggling, just go back and practice the first step. After executing drill 1 and getting the pop-up, practice getting another follow-up touch that hits the ball against the backboard. Ideally, this touch should not hit the back wall lower than the top of the crossbar. Do this step of the drill until you are almost automatic with the touch, as each successive step we practice requires a perfect setup from the previous drill. Now we have arrived at the final touch, in which we are most of the time trying to score. There really is no perfect way to say how to hit this last touch, as each of these looks will be different depending on how your first touch went. And since this lesson aims to serve as an introduction to double taps, it's best that we not think too hard about where our final read off the backboard is going just yet. But right now we just want to focus on making contact with it and getting that touch. Like I said in drill 2, this drill requires perfect execution of drill 1 and 2 before being able to even get an attempt on this exercise. So make sure you are proficient with those before trying to fully complete the double tap on this last step. For this drill, just focus on making contact with the ball following you hitting it off the backboard. Ideally, since this is a very tough task at first, you should be looking to make contact with the ball on at least a third of your attempts and try to improve from there. If you guys have watched any previous workouts by me, you know this is the point I usually like to have us apply what we have learned in ranked. But for this case, since it is a very specific mechanic that you might not get a chance to get good reps in for, I'm going to be providing a few double tap training packs that I personally use as warm-ups before scrims and collegiate matches. These training packs will really push you guys and will not be easy, but challenging ourselves with things like this will help us grow as players exponentially faster. We want to be outside our comfort zone, so this is good. Play around with these training packs for 30 minutes and think back to each step of the double tap that we talked about. The first initial touches will look a little different from what we did in our drills, but the concepts we talked about will stay the same. In this workout, we learned what a double tap was and the 3 steps that come with successfully executing one. Double taps are a very threatening shot to have in your offensive arsenal and will certainly make you more feared and respected when you have possession of the ball. I know this was a very tricky one, guys, and possibly very frustrating for some of you, but remember, like we said, we need to step outside our comfort zone as players to grow.